Hi, today we're going to design this tree and 3D print it. This video is aimed at people new to 3D design and printing. We're going to use Blender, a free 3D design program available at blender.org to make the tree armature, and use traditional materials and techniques to finish it. If you have never used Blender, on the right is a link to a short video covering how to navigate in the program. Right-click it, open a new tab, and come back when you're done. The techniques we will use can make just about any type of deciduous tree, and make trees that are more natural looking than store-bought ones, or even duplicate an actual tree. Let's get started. We're going to start by adding some pictures in for reference, which makes it a little easier. You don't need pictures, but I like them. We'll go in and add what's called an empty and an image. So it puts this plane down here, and if we click over here on this icon, we can select an image. We're going to make a birch tree. So we're going to take this picture and we are going to hit R for rotate, X for x-axis, 90. So now we've got it rotated. Hit G for grab, Y for this y-axis, and move it back a little bit. Now we're going to add another one. And birch 2. Rotate this one. We're going to rotate this one along the z-axis, minus 90. So we'll grab this one on the y, move it back a little bit. Grab this one on the y, move it here. Grab it x, move it there. Now we've got a view from our right side of the tree and a view from the front. At some point you're going to have to scale it. I'm going to do that now, and the way I'm going to do that is add a plane. I'm going to rotate that plane same way as I did the rest of them. Rotate X, just type in 90, and then we hit S. You can do it by manipulating the mouse, or if you hit enter and then click down here, you can bring up this window. And I'm going to do this directly in millimeters. My Z axis is about 200 millimeters, so we're going to make this 200, and it's going to be huge. Right there it is. So now we're going to take that, rotate it X. So now it's on a vertical axis, and we're going to scale our pictures until they match it. There we go. Okay, that's about good there. So we can get rid of this. And they are about good, but we're going to have to move them. Grab Y, move him off there. Grab X. There. Okay, so now that just set up our two little reference pictures. We're also going to move them up, but first we're going to start making our actual tree. Make sure we've unselected everything. Shift A, mesh, and we want a single vertex, right? And it's going to put that right here. So there's our single vertex. Now, for some reason, it's put us in edit mode. So to get out of edit mode, you hit tab. Now we're in object mode. Now we're going to select these two objects. Just use shift. Right, we're going to grab Z, and here's our vertex. So we're going to try to put that at the base of the tree. Now we get to the part of actually making the tree. So I do this in one plane first. We're going to start here. We've got our single vertex selected. We can either go up here and switch or hit tab. There we go. So now we're in edit mode. And the first thing we're going to do is pick one branch, one main trunk to go on. And we're going to start with this one that goes to the left. So it's here in this picture, is this one right here in this picture. Okay. We're going to do this from this plane, from the y-axis view. When you extrude or move anything, it'll do it in your view plane. So if you're at some wonky angle, it's going to move it along the picture plane, just like you're moving the dot around in 2D on the screen. So we hit extrude, move it out a little bit, extrude again, extrude again, extrude again, extrude again. Now it looks like there's a joint here, so I'm going to take one off this way, go back, highlight that one, go up here. It looks like there's another one off that way. There. So now if we hit all, so now we've hit all. That's our first branch. Okay, now we're going to go back down here. We're going to extrude again. Now we're going to go on a different line. We are going to take, let's do this one on the side here. All right, so this one comes over here, and it also comes forward in that view. But we're just going to do all of them in one plane to start with. So we go up, 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 up. And it's got a split there. It looks like it kind of splits here and there. Hit all again. Now we've got that second branch. And we continue on and do that for the rest of them. Okay, that's pretty good. Now we're going to just select a specific set. And the easiest way to do that is with the C key, and that gives us a little paintbrush. And if we do shift paintbrush or shift left click, it unselects things. Okay, so now we're going to go to our other view. First thing, this needs to be shifted. Grab, Y. Now we go back to editing. So now we're going to grab all of these, we're going to move them over a little bit, and then we're going to hit R, and that rotates them all. Grab them, move them over a little bit more. And then we're just going to select individual ones. Move them where we want them. Oh, and I accidentally moved one that didn't belong moved. Okay, so I'm just getting kind of the rough shape in, and now we continue doing that for the rest of the branches. Selecting nodes, moving them out in the side view to where we want them. I show modifying this branch and then cut out the rest and just skipped ahead, but it's the same for each one. You modify everything first in one view, then you switch to an alternate view and move everything until it's arranged the way you want. Okay, that is our rough skeleton of our tree. So I'm going to hide my two empty reference pictures just because they get distracting. So if we go into object mode again, there's our tree diagram. I think I'm going to do a little more ramification right on some of these branches. So now I'm kind of using the fact that it works in the plane you're viewing to give me some randomness in where the in where these go. Now, the next thing we're going to do is go down here to our base. And from the top, we're just going to extrude this out. It's a little tough. Yeah, we want to make sure we get that bottom node. There we go. I think I got those. Yeah, you just want to make sure it's on that bottom vertex. Extrude that out. So that's going to be kind of a root structure and a support structure for printing. We want to have kind of a big area down here to attach to the build plate. There we go. Now we kind of use the magic of Blender to turn this from a stick figure into a tree. So we go to the modifiers, and the first modifier we add is skin. So there we go, skin. And we're also going to add another one right away called subdivision surface. And this refines the mesh. It gives it more resolution. And you want to make sure these two are the same. The higher this number it is, the finer it's going to subdivide it. But as you do that and you move vertexes around, you can get gaps in the mesh. So you want these to be the same, because this will be the final output, is the render, and this is just what it shows. So if you're doing CGI and you wanted a real high final render, but you wanted a responsive viewport, you would set this lower. But we want them the same. Okay, we're gonna turn the symmetry off, and we're gonna go into edit mode again, hitting tab. Now the magic here is Control A, and that scales the thickness of our skin. We're going to get it up that looks reasonable for the upper branches, and you probably don't want those to be smaller than, you know, maybe 2 millimeters actual. And then you can go down here. If we click this X-ray, we can see the nodes, but that also selects through everything, so you have to be careful. I'm going to bring back our pictures. So now we can select nodes. Hit Control A and scale up individual parts of the tree until they look right to us. And you could see what I was talking about there. So right there, there's kind of a defect, a lump in that mesh. And if you mess with the scaling, you can get it to look a little better. And there's another one, right, where it, so this is kind of messed up right here. But all these different nodes, we're going to grab him along the y-axis, move him out a little bit. They all interact, especially when you've got these big junctions. No, I'm going to make sure I grab him on this plane. So that looks pretty good. It's going to move that out a little bit, but it doesn't if I grab it Y. Now we've created a big hole, and that's why it's important to have the render and the viewport subdivisions the same in that modifier. If they're different, you might hide this defect and it wouldn't become apparent until you tried to print it. That looks kind of bad though. That looks a little better. Go out of edit mode and we're going to save it. Okay, so as of right now, we could just take this out, export it to an STL file, and that would just be up here, File, Export, STL. Import it into our slicer, and then add supports there. We don't want to do that though. What I've found is it's a little easier to kind of add supports to the model, and I'll just show that right now. We're going to add supports. This is something important. This switches between orthographic and perspective. I do everything in orthographic, and this is just straight projection. Something that's 4 units out on this axis is always 4 units out, versus this where you've got perspective. It's a lot easier to create things in orthographic view. So we're going to start adding some supports. You can typically, I've found you can print stuff at about a 30-degree angle without support. So what we're going to do is just add supports as kind of limbs off of the tree. So scale the tips down a bit and just move them until they are inside another part of the tree. You don't have to do this. It's just a quicker, in my opinion, easier way. It prints faster. It doesn't use as much material than doing support straight out of the slicer. So that first level is kind of done. And I don't obviously know everything about Blender. There's a way, if you're doing animation and adding bones into a model, you can click on this in front and it will show the skeleton in front, but that doesn't work here. The only way it seems you can get a X-ray view, well, that's okay. That's not the worst, but it still is hard to see where your nodes are. And it's also harder to tell when you've got it in another branch. Yeah, that's pretty good. Boy, and this one, you know, this one sticks out pretty far. You know what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to just extrude this one straight down to our build plane. Ooh, that's really far. Scale down. I don't know if I want to scale it down a little bit. And this one's getting tough, just because it's hanging out so far. Now we continue extruding vertices and connecting them to the other branches. Another thing you do, when you keep extruding out of a joint like this, it swells it up. So I'm just going to add another node, and if you just select two and hit subdivide, it'll put one in between them. If you hit grab and then grab again, you can slide it along that edge. Right, then we'll extrude that and bring it up here. And now we continue adding supports. So I'm going to grab that, move it up, grab that, move it up. I'm going to extrude it down to here, and I'm going to scale it up a little bit. Again, extrude it down and scale it up a good bit. Okay, so we're going to call that good. For our modified mesh, I'm going to save a copy of this. Now we are going to go back to our modifiers and we're going to apply them. Apply, apply. Now you don't have to do this, but what this does is now we don't have that skeleton of vertices anymore. We've got just a standard mesh, right? And there's a lot you can do to this. You can sculpt it and do a bunch of different things, but we're gonna make sure we pick this X-ray modifier, go to the side, and we're gonna go through. And it didn't select any of those. Okay. So let's grab this, move it down a little bit. Because we don't really care about the shape or look at these, but what we're gonna do is kind of grab everything at or below that. Then we're gonna hit S, Z, and hit 0, and that's gonna flatten it out. So now we've got a nice flat. I've never tried this before. I don't know if these are gonna work. But we've got a nice flat surface on the bottom of this fake root structure to adhere to the build plate. We will now export this, STL, and here you can scale it. Since we already drew this in millimeters and that's what the slicer is going to be looking for, we'll just export it the way it is. Now we're going to import and slice the model. So the first thing we do is select it, bring it in. Two things I do before slicing it. One is there's an auto repair feature in Prusa Slicer, so let's do that. And there it repaired it. The second thing I like to do with these trees is set the infill to 100%. It makes them stronger and makes it easier if you do want to try to heat the branches and bend them later. So now we'll slice it. Okay, there it's sliced. And now if we look down on the bottom, we can see that it uses 2.45 meters of filament, and it's going to take us about 3.5 hours to print. Now I want to show why we went to the trouble of kind of making it self-supporting with our own supports. If we go up here and have Slicer add supports, we can see that it now takes 18.7 meters of filament and about 11.5 hours. So there's no way we want to do this. You know, the vast majority of this is just waste material. So get rid of the supports, slice it the way we had it, and now we'll export this and print it. The tree was printed, then painted and finished with traditional methods. If you made it this far, please let me know what you think of the video, especially the length. Was it too long, too short, too deep, or not deep enough? And thanks for watching.